world of tankers. I'm Blitz, and today we'll be talking about the K-91. Now, this tank is coming to the stores for the price tag of $15 US, which is extremely cheap, especially for it being a Tier 9 premium. So in this video, I'm going to be telling you everything you need to know about this tank, from the armor profile, statistics, and of course, whether or not you should be sticking this tank in your garage. So make sure to stay tuned. When getting into the statistics of the K-91, the first thing you'll notice is the excellent damage per minute of 2,737. Now that is more than some of the Tier 10 heavy tanks like the IS-4, IS-7, E-100, and this is a Tier 9 heavy. In fact, it has the most damage per minute out of every Tier 9 heavy in the game. As well, with 248mm of standard penetration, you're easily going to get through lower plates of an E-100, IS-4, IS-7, tanks like that. Heat rounds have 310, so then you can get through the superstructure of most German super heavies like a Maus, Jagdpanzer E100, so you're going to have plenty of penetration when running this tank. And the crazy thing about this vehicle, I find, is the shell velocity. In fact, this has as much shell velocity as a vehicle like a T-62A at 1,535. This is the fastest shell velocity you can get in this game, so it is a dead-eye accurate gun. Not to mention, this is an autoloader. If you didn't know that, it carries 3 shells, 350 damage each, which isn't a crazy amount of alpha when you have tanks like the AMX 5120, but it's a very nimble tank, very low down, and it's still able to dish out 1,050 average damage. And the clip reload really isn't that bad at 16 seconds. Its rate of fire is 7.82 rounds a minute, which isn't spectacular, but overall, it's actually got a very nimble and quick reloading gun for an auto reloader. With an aiming time of 2.04 seconds, it's very easily able to aim in, snap at shots. Dispersion at 0.319, again, very accurate, especially for a heavy tank at Tier 9. Untrue to most Russian vehicles, it actually has a decent amount of gun depression at 7 degrees, which is just enough, in my opinion, to pretty much work all ridgelines and still feel comfortable not showing your lower plate. Although I will say, with 10 degrees of gun elevation, that is not a spectacular number. In fact, I was on Port Bay today, and there was somebody above me, and I could just not aim up at them for the life of me. So that is one downfall of this vehicle. It's not a huge one, because really you're never always going to be aiming up at the enemy. That's one of the rarest moments in the game, but it still can affect you in certain battles. The turret traverse speed is another little downside of this tank at 22.34 degrees a second, and when you pair that with the traverse speed of 34.75, it's definitely not slow together, but if you're not paying attention and a vehicle like a Sheridan's coming up to you, it's easily going to get your side. You're not going to be able to react quick enough to turn, to shoot it, so you have to be very, very attentive in this tank. You have to pay attention because it can be tracked very easily, and once it's tracked, it can be flanked, circle of death. That is one thing that can happen to this tank because it isn't the most mobile on the turning speed. However, the top speed of this tank at 40 kilometers per hour is easily going to be able to get into position, especially with the power to weight ratio of 13.37. It's definitely not amazing, but the tank's still going to stay above 30 kilometers per hour on pretty much any terrain you're on, so it is a pretty nimble tank. But the most important value for me on this tank is the reverse speed, because when you're running an autoloader, as soon as you dump out that clip, you immediately want to back up in the cover to make sure that the enemy can't get shots on you from the front, obviously. So if you have a slow reverse speed in an autoloading tank like a T-57 heavy, after you unload your clip, you might be screwed. You're getting tracked, you're getting penned by everybody, they're rushing you. When you're running the K-91, it backs up very quickly, so you can snap the enemy with 1 or 2 shots, back down, reload your clip, and then pull back out. And that's something that a lot of autoloaders wish they had, and this one really does. When looking at the armor profile of the K-91, it is a very weird tank at that. The turret's a very weird shape. The hull armor resembles nothing of any Russian tanks in the game. So because of that, it does have a funky armor profile, although it's not very effective at that. You can see upper plate 236mm isn't really going to be bouncing much, and neither is the lower plate at 163. As well, the turret, it does have some very troll spots on it. You can see angles around that green are auto ricochets, 400, 280mm thick, but on those weak spots, if you can't nail a shot, it's only about 251. And if you're loading premium, you can see just how easy this tank becomes to pen. It's pretty much green all around the front. And the thing about this tank is if you use the gun depression, you'd think, well, the turret armor becomes harder to pen because it's becoming more angled, which is true. It's very hard to pen the turret there. Upper plate is also an auto ricochet for pretty much all APCR rounds, all AP rounds. Heat shells are going to be trying to pen 513mm. That's not going to work. But if you notice, above the tracks, it's green here. And when the tank's using gun depression, you can pretty much guaranteed get shots into this spot. And while most Russian tanks, that would be considered spaced armor, this whole part that comes out here is actually part of the hull. That is not spaced armor. So the easiest way to take out this tank if it's using gun depression is to shoot these little panels right above the tracks. Now you can't do that with heat, obviously. Don't take my word on that. If you're running any vehicles shooting heat rounds, because obviously heat's going to get absorbed in the tracks. But any standard ammo with 250 millimeters is easily going to be getting right through that part. And especially if you hit it right above where the track is, that's only about 230. That's 250 going through the tracks. So it's really not that hard of a penetration. Although, the funky thing about this tank is that it's actually an excellent side scraper. And the reason for that being is you can see, while that side armor isn't spaced, it's actually really good because of that plate being angled normally. That plate's about 336 millimeters thick. So if you can hide this frontal hull armor here, you're going to have about 300 millimeters on that frontal armor there. You can angle it like this. That's 336 millimeters, 260 here, auto ricochets all the way around the back. It's actually an excellent take at side scraping, and that's one thing I really like to do in it. As well, it can do reverse side scraping pretty well, as you can see. It's got 7 degrees of gun depression pretty much all around the tank except for the really rear part, but you can get some good reverse side scraping angles on it as well, just because it is, again, that really funky design. But honestly, when I run this tank, I really do not rely on the armor. Because it has that good mobility, it's got that good speed, I really try and side scrape it with it if I'm going up against big heavy tanks like E100s and Mouses, but most of the time I'm pushing it to the medium side because it does a way better job with that good damage per minute, tearing apart mediums with its clip, and it does a way better job bouncing medium tanks, judging that they don't have as much penetration as some of the bigger heavies in the game. Because this is an autoloader, there are many factors that you wouldn't think of running a normal tank that you really need to put in when you're playing this vehicle. And that actually makes it a lot harder to play. Instead of thinking one step ahead of the enemy, in this tank you gotta think 2 steps. So the first example of something that you got to think about when running this tank is, yeah, you've got a clip, but it takes 7 seconds to unload every single shell. 3.5 second shell interval is the longest out of pretty much all the autoloaders in the game. And what that means is, let's say you're aiming at a Jagdpanzer. Now you shoot 1 shell into him, you've got his attention, he's going to slowly start to turn at you. Now when you unload that second shell, let's say he's just turned at you. So you have the option, stay up in the open, fire 1 more shell 3.5 seconds later, damaging him, or back up, reload your clip, and pull out another 16 seconds later, shooting at somebody else. Now the correct option would be back up, because the ability to do an extra 350 damage, but losing 800 hit points over just backing up and immediately reloading the clip is really stupid. You never want to lose hit points, especially in an autoloader, because the less hit points you have, as soon as you unload that clip, it's going to give the enemy the better idea to just say, hey, I'm going to rush him and take him out while he's on this 16-second clip reload. So there are many things you need to counter. Sometimes when I'm going up against tanks that I know I could easily clip out with the whole clip, I'm thinking, well, if I bounce one of these shells, they're going to kill me. So you don't always want to be super aggressive in these tanks, even when you think you have the upper hand. As well, when you're thinking about 2 steps ahead of the enemy, what I mean by that is when you have a clip, you can actually trick the enemy quite well. Because what you can do is sometimes, let's say there's an enemy with, I don't know, 200 hit points left or 300 hit points, but you don't want to get hit by a gun that does 600, 700 damage sometimes. So what you can do is fire 1 shell into them. As soon as they start to turn at you, immediately back up frantically. Keep backing up. Make them think that you're out of ammo. And then what happens is that you're going to wait for them to pull around the corner thinking that they're going to snap you, and bam, finish them right off because you've got 2 shells left in the clip. You can do that and try and trick the enemy into thinking that you have no shells left, and then snap the shell into them. Another trick you can do is fire 2 shells into the enemy, making them think, hey, he's only got 1 shell left. Then you can back up, reload the whole clip, fire 1, and then you can do that same backup trick. But this time they're pretty sure that you've got no ammo left, so they're going to rush you, and bam, bam, you've got another 700 hit points right off their tank. So those are just a couple little tricks that you can do in a vehicle like the K-91 to make the enemy think that, hey, he doesn't have any ammo left, we can easily rush him, but then wham, you're losing another 700,000 hit points and you're dead. So there's a lot of tricks to running autoloaders, but you got to be very, very patient when running this tank. And the thing about it is, because it's so accurate, you don't always need to be in the front line to be super effective. But my final thoughts on this tank for the $15, well, I actually think that this is not a bad deal. It's a fun tank to run, it's very unique, got that really different playstyle than most of the tier 9 tanks in the game. And unlike most autoloaders, it's actually able to fend for itself very, very well because it's got such a solid damage per minute. So in my opinion, if you don't have this tank and you're looking for a new, fun, exciting premium to play and you don't have it, I would definitely suggest to think about picking this tank up. If you're newer to the game though, as I say in most of my videos for the more advanced tanks, if you're newer in the game and you're not spectacular or you really haven't grasped the autoloader technique yet, I definitely would suggest to stay away from it just for now, maybe wait for it to come out again. The Conf Panzer always comes out as well, very cheap. But I definitely suggest if you don't have it to really consider picking this one up because it is a fun addition and one of my top performing tier 9 heavies in my garage. This is going to be the conclusion of this video, though. I hope you guys did enjoy it. As always, if you did, make sure to hit that like button down below. If you're not subscribed to my channel and you've stuck till the end of the video, make sure to do that as well. I hope you like my content. But other than that, I hope you guys are all safe, happy, and healthy out there, and I'll see you in the next one.